remains the longest unresolved refugee crisis in the world. That's according to the United Nations. And this was the situation even before the current war on the civilians of Gaza. As per the signatories of the petition today, including a large number of my own constituents, the strong feeling in our communities is evident and it is clear. In Gaza, we are witnessing collective punishment, destruction and displacement of human lives on a horrific and unprecedented scale. Ongoing indiscriminate bombing has turned a chronic humanitarian crisis into a catastrophe. And for those who do survive, there is an imminent risk of death by disease and starvation. Millions are displaced, but where are they to go? Because as I speak, there is simply no safe space left for those fleeing from Rafah. It would be helpful if the Minister today updates us as to where he thinks people are to flee to. Previously, many of us have called for safe routes when Russia invaded Ukraine and some visa schemes were set up for Ukrainians. And so how can it be that there are no safe routes for Palestinians to reach sanctuary in the UK, even if they have family here? In fact, I'll give way very quickly.
I thank the Honourable Member for giving way. She's making a very powerful point. Has she, like me, been touched by the fact that the many constituents who've written to me about this ask that very question? How can it be that we have a scheme for the Ukrainians but not one for Palestinians? That concerns them, and they need to hear from the government why that's the case.
I thank the Honourable Member for her intervention, and I do hope that the Minister addresses this point in his response. So how can it be that there are no safe routes for Palestinians to reach sanctuary in the UK, even if they have family here? In fact, humanitarian visa routes are rarely available to Palestinians in any form, despite 1 in 6 of the world's refugees being Palestinian. I've spoken in this House repeatedly, asking why Palestinians are all too often treated differently. The dehumanisation, the devaluation of Palestinian life has been so stark and, to be totally frank, utterly appalling. History teaches us that a people are dehumanised so that they can be killed, displaced and starved with impunity, and indeed so that they can be denied assistance and asylum when they are so clearly in need. I know that many of my constituents have been utterly shocked at the racism, the Islamophobia and the double standards. Something has been fundamentally broken or revealed, however you look at it. And I will give way.
The Honourable Lady. I wonder if she would agree with me that, like my constituents, feel very similar to her, but actually we have rehoused a number of people from Gaza who came as family members of British Gazans when the war broke out. And what I have seen from my constituency is the open-hearted nature to help those families, that any concern about what is actually a relatively small group of people that this visa scheme would apply to, about their not being resourced. And in fact, all of the Gazans that we resettled into Birmingham Yardley were actually doctors and are bringing huge amounts of resource, and that actually our communities, even in the face of the racism she talks about, are ready with open arms to help.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and I agree with her. We are a place of sanctuary and we welcome refugees. The political establishment has totally been out of touch with the majority of British people on this, and I think this will not be easily forgotten. Young people across East London ask me, how is it that the government condemns certain countries for their human rights records and crimes but not others? Why is it that it seems that the right to self-determination is spoken about for some and not others? Why are some national flags celebrated and others denigrated, even effectively banned? Why are some deaths mourned and others explained away? Why is it that for the government too many Palestinians have been killed, or that too many are starving, but there is no condemnation of who killed them or who is starving them? I, as many across the UK and around the world, have always been opposed to the bombing and displacement of civilians, but this government has supported it in Gaza. What did they think would happen when they supported the openly declared intent to reduce the entire Gaza Strip to rubble? Whenever this government have been asked about what the long-term plan was for millions of civilians in Gaza, they have been unable to answer. Instead, it was this government who withdrew funding from UNRWA shortly after the ICJ's interim ruling. It is this government that helps ensure Israel have the weapons to kill women and children. Indeed, it would be helpful if the Minister updates us today as to the latest assessment as to whether weapons from the UK have been used to kill children. Whenever asked about how UK trade weapons are used, the government provides pro forma general lines about ongoing reviews and the licensing criteria. If these reviews are actually happening, why can we not know what they actually reveal? Especially now when those living the reality of this horror are reaching out for support to survive, it is this government who turns their back on humanity. Now, for some time now, parliamentary political discourse uses migration, even the absolute horror of people dying in the English Channel, cynically as a political tool. It is the age-old phenomena of scaremongering and scapegoating. And as the government erodes our civil liberties and democratic rights, as they disenfranchise and disempower, as they attack the very fabric of our communities through austerity, they foster fear and division and falsely point to migrants for the cause of our alienation. But the truth is that it is overwhelmingly clear that the global drivers of refugee movements are intrinsically connected to the legacies of colonialism and empire, which live on to this day. There is no doubt that the British government has a responsibility to step up for the people of Gaza fleeing the collective punishment, and yet, shamefully, there is no doubt that they are still choosing complicity rather than compassion.